To us today.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Now, mate,
Thanks for being spot on time.
not a problem, mate. We've been able to play the track a couple of times now on our show, and we're already getting people writing to us going, "We want to hear that again." Tell us a little bit about Legacy and how it came about.
Basically, I wrote that song. I sort of came up with that guitar line first. That's what always happens with my songs. I sort of have guitar things in a stockpile, and I think, right, what does that sound like? What am I going to do with that? It was sort of halfway through recording the album, I sort of came up with it, and I came to my producer and said, like, what do you reckon about this? And he said, we both sort of just thought it sounded really good. And then he sort of challenged me to go home and write something that, that I haven't really written about before. And that was sort of that, what sort of mark are you leaving with your life for the people that matter, and what's going to happen when you're gone, because, at the moment you see a lot of these old famous rock stars are unfortunately no longer with us, and they leave these massive legacies, and they've done this and they've done that. And I sort of thought to myself, if I wasn't around anymore, what would I like people to think about? What's going to be associated with me? So it's basically just about all that sort of thing, like basically putting your best foot forward while you're here, and just doing something worthwhile. So yeah, legacy. That's sort of the theme of the song.
It's such a deep topic to go into. What was it like when you actually sat there and started to write the lyrics and putting them down on paper?
Remarkably, this one came about like within 48 hours. Like, and usually, like sometimes I can sit on songs for 4 or 5 weeks and then be chopping and changing all the time until I'm really happy. So, but this one just sort of fell in place. I think I made like a couple of adjustments here and there, a few words changed, but yeah, no, it sort of fell into place. And that big hook sort of just happened as well, because it's sort of, I don't know, it's got this almost Celtic Irish sort of mountain song vibe to it, and I sort of thought, like a group of people that are all very righteous singing that hook. So that came very early on. That was sort of the centerpiece of it all, and then all the lyrics fell in around that. So yeah.
Awesome. And of course, this is the first track off your brand new album, Full Circle, that's coming out. Is this what we can expect from the album? Is this the sound that we can expect?
To be honest, it was very hard to pick the singles off this record, because it's written as a record. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. In the past, sometimes I've sort of jumped around into lots of genres, and trying to get them all in one record can be hard at times. Whereas this one's very cohesive. There's a lot of blues, obviously blues, folk, soul, and a touch of country. I always get put in the country basket, and I never try to be. It's what seems to happen. So it's got all that going on, but. I'd say Legacy is a really good track that sort of showcases a lot of what's going on in one track. It's a good start, I think, but there's certainly a lot going on, but it works really well. But I think it's a good snapshot into what's to come.
Definitely. Now, of course, Canberra wasn't in lockdown as long as what Melbourne was, but how did you go about recording the album and working on new music while Australia was in the middle of a pandemic?
To be honest, it sort of, because before this I had a rock record come out, which was a brand new direction for me, which is sort of hard rock, and that came out on March 24 last year, which is completely as coronavirus hit Australia and everything got locked down. So it just fell through the cracks. A lot of things happened. We had radio, we had PR, we had all this stuff happening, and it just fell through the cracks because everything was shutting down. So I fell into I was pretty low, to be honest. Like, it sort of got me right down, and then I sort of just started writing music because I was pretty cranky, and a lot of good things sort of came out, and then I was lucky enough to receive a grant from Homefront from the ACT government to do this record, which is really nice, because everything I've ever done has been self-funded. I just work hard to get where I want to be, but in my application, I basically said I can't do what I need to do because I can't play shows, I can't tour, I can't do that. So getting that grant was a massive positive, and then everything sort of started falling into place. Like, I just worked every Wednesday night for the last basically 4 months on the album with my one of my best mates and producer, Matt Barnes. So we're in his home studio, and we just chipped away at it. We do guitars one night, then vocals, and then we sort of just do things really productively, and it just fell into place really well. So And the lockdown gave me time to really work on each aspect of the album, like get the guitar sound that I wanted, and because I've got 16 guitars as well, so choose the guitar to play with that section, and just really thought out process. Like there was no rush, which I think is, you know, something that you can't do when you're in the studio. Like some people, you know, you've got 48 hours to do this song, and you can really miss capturing what you want it to be because you're not thinking, you're not present, you're thinking about what I've got to do next to get this done. So that's basically how it all worked. And like I had, halfway through the process, I had Mike Barker, who's ex-John Butler Trio, Split Ends, and the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, come on board to do the album's drums and percussion. I just reached out to him via Instagram message to ask him to wish my brother happy birthday because he's a drummer. And then that resulted in us working together and me sending the songs over to New Zealand to him, and then he'd send them back. And you know, he's an absolute just unbelievable percussionist and drummer, as everyone knows. So he took it to another level, and yeah, it's just been it's really pulled me out of the black hole that I was in for COVID. You know, it's just a really positive thing. So I'm just really happy that it's done now, and we're getting ready to release it.
Definitely. And you've worked with Matt for a long time as your producer. Tell us a little bit about what you like about working with Matt and what you feel he brings to your music.
Matt's a good friend of mine, and he knows me for me. You know, like he knows what I'm about, what I can do, and he's always pushing me. You know, we're very much about then and now. Like the first records we've done in his studio, we look at now, and you know, it's sort of just this journey, and it's really good because we've got this constant measuring stick because he pushes me and I push him. So he's always working on getting better at what he does, and so am I, and we sort of got there together. But like he's not scared to tell me that, mate, that lyric's no good. Like you can do better than that, or I reckon that chorus is too long, or just the sort of stuff that can be delicate when you're working with artistic people. You know what I mean? Like it's people, like if you're an artist, like for reasons because of what you want to do, and sometimes telling that person that could be better can, you know, it can be a very sticky situation because I've been on both sides of that coin. So I just think that we've just sort of done so much together that it's just a sounding board, and you know, having him, and then I bring in people like Kojo Anso, you might know as Citizen K. He's a great friend of mine as well, so he's always been a good sounding board for things and looks at things a lot differently than me. And yeah, I'm really happy with the team I've got around my music now. So it's something that we've just worked on for a long time, and it's just like a real family now of what we do.
Definitely. Now, what can we expect from you next? Because, of course, as you said, you had a hard rock album last year. This album goes back more to the indie roots kind of sound. What are you heading for next? And can we see some shows from you this year as well?
Well, massive fingers crossed. Next week, I'm aiming to announce a 20-date national tour.
Yep.
With, at the bottom, with a big asterisk, you know, more to come. So I'm basically, and I have to admit, like, locking down this tour has been probably the hardest thing. I rank it much harder than the album because venues are just so reluctant to sell tickets and have patrons, you know, planning to come, which is completely understandable. But I sort of figured if I don't try, you know, and things go well, I'm just going to be sitting around not playing shows with this new album. So, like, if all going well, I'll be doing that. And then I've already been writing new songs because we still had a lot of time on our hands, even though we finished the record. So I've got 3 or 4 new songs that I'm working on, and then basically wanted to see what happens with the album and what the response is and what's good and what's not, and blah, 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 and then I'll go from there. But I reckon I'll probably follow the album up with some singles. And with the rock stuff, we're in a bit of a hard spot because Toddy, our bass player, has just had a baby, so he's sort of on dad duties at the moment, and my brother Joe, who's the drummer, he's been diagnosed with carpal tunnel and arthritis in his hands, so we're trying to see how that's going to work out for him, but it's just, for the band, it's just not the right time. But certainly that's, you know, the best thing about being a solo artist is being able to just think, you know, ask yourself, can I do it? Yes, and then off you go, rather than having to talk to all the band members and stuff. But we'll definitely be back. It's just not the right time for us right now.
Definitely. Well, Jack, it's great that you've been able to get over such a hard year, and we are so looking forward to this album and now the tour as well. But for now, I think it's time to take another listen to Legacy on our show. So what would you like to say to our listeners before they take another listen to this awesome track?
I've been saying to people who ask me about it, I just say listen to the lyrics and sing the hook, and while you're doing it, think about what that means to you.
Awesome. Well, mate, thank you so much for chatting to us today, and we cannot wait to see you on the road very, very soon.
Thank you very much for having me, and much appreciated for helping me get this single out there.
No problem, mate. No problem at all. We'll talk soon.
All right, see you,
All
mate.
right,
Thank
bye.
you.